We are less than 100 days until the college football season kicks off. And the big question is, with the expanded playoff, will games become more meaningless or more meaningful? What about in our lives? Are we living meaningful lives with purpose, or do we think that life is meaningless? Let's unpack it. Welcome to the Unpacking It podcast, where we unpack parallels, metaphors, and topics in sports that relate to life and faith. I'm Bryce Johnson in Charlotte, North Carolina, joined today in studio by guest co-host Travis Vaughn from Upward Sports. We will say hello to him in just a moment, but this is a really fun episode and special episode today as we highlight Upward and also have a wonderful conversation about college football. So much is going on in the world of sports. The PGA Championship was awesome this past weekend. The NBA playoffs have been fantastic, but just around the corner is college football. And so we got to talk some college football today. And I have been clamoring for the college football playoff to expand for many, many years. And so I will tell you why. We will talk all about that today and look forward to having this great conversation with Travis from Upward Sports. Be sure to check out our website, unpackingit.com. We have got a raffle taking place right now to support Unpacking It Ministries. We are doing this until the end of the month, and we've got some incredible prizes that when you donate, you have the opportunity to potentially win. So you get to support Unpacking It, and you've got a chance to win. We got U.S. Open tickets. We've got autographed jerseys, Travis Etienne, George Pickens, Sean Alexander. We've got tickets to the Savannah Bananas, which is a exciting kind of new element to the minor league baseball. And so you can win tickets to that. And so check that out. The link is in the show notes, and go check out our raffle. And also, just a friendly reminder, we've got the sports devotional. It's out there. We've been getting some great feedback from people enjoying our new book. And so you can check out thesportsdevotional.com. All right. So we announced it a couple of weeks ago, and we've been talking about Upward Sports here on the podcast, and we are thrilled about our partnership with them. They are located just down the highway here where we are in Charlotte. And Travis made the trip up here today to be in studio as our guest co-host, Travis Vaughn. Let me give the proper introduction. He's the director of market research, product development, and marketing, and has been with Upward for 11 years. Travis, welcome. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very happy to be here and excited to be talking sports and faith. I mean, it's one of the things that attracted me to Upward when I started there as well. So good to be here today.
Absolutely. And so we just got to get this out of the way too. You're coming at this as a Clemson fan. So give us a little bit about your sports fandom today.
Yeah, I'm a huge Clemson fan, all sports. Grew up going to Clemson games. My uncle really instilled my fandom for Clemson early on. Also a Dallas Cowboys fan and Atlanta Braves fan as well. Those would be the main places there. Love to watch the majors in golf too. What an exciting finish this past weekend.
That was awesome. Yeah. And then of course the Scotty Scheffler story. So it has been, a lot going on in the sports world. I'm fired up to watch Minnesota. I'm pulling for the Timberwolves to win this whole thing in the NBA playoffs. So we'll see now with the conference finals taking place this week. But I want to talk college football today. And I actually just got back from Boone, spent the weekend in Boone. We had an awesome time at the High Country Caregivers event. Got to see a lot of college football coaches. And so college football is kind of on my mind. And so Travis, as an App State guy, I loved being there. We were in the SoCon at that time, and we were in the college football. We had our own playoff, the NCAA 1AA playoffs. And so I saw 16 teams participate and then go through the playoffs and win national championships. So I love the concept of playoffs. And so with 1A now making this big shift this year, a lot of questions. And so I want to get your thoughts on all of that today on the show. But before we fully jump into that topic, I want to make sure that we kind of give listeners a little bit more insight into what Upward Sports is all about. And then also we're going to talk about kind of this concept today and how it even relates to what you guys do and the heart behind Upward Sports. But Travis, you've been there for 11 years. Let our listeners know just how passionate you are about the work that Upward does.
Yeah, Upward is a great outreach for churches to do. We equip churches to run self-sustaining sports ministries in their community, and we do that through a number of different sports. Basketball being the one we're known for the most, but we also offer flag football, soccer, cheerleading, volleyball, baseball, and softball. And soon to come, we're going to be releasing a running program. There's been an organization called Run for God that we have partnered with or merged with in the last year. We're working on some development around that. So individuals will be able to participate, adults as well will be able to participate in some new programming around running. And then we're working on some pilots around pickleball right now too, which will be interesting to do in the future. It's such a hot sport out there. So ultimately what we want to do is we want to equip churches and leaders who have a passion for sports to be able to share the gospel through sports. And so what we find is about half of the people that participate in our programming year over year are unchurched. They don't go to church at all. And so it's a great opportunity for the church to provide a program that the community wants, that the community needs, being a sports program. And then through that, you're able to share the light of Jesus to those that are participating in it. And it's not just the athlete. When we do these leagues out there, the players will get weekly devotions through practice and that type of thing. But most of the leagues will also do a halftime devotion on game day as well. And so you're interacting with the parents and the grandparents and the uncle that comes to watch their niece or nephew play or something like that. And so it's just a really good experience. And we have, countless stories of people across the country that have had their lives changed through this over the last 29 years as an organization. And I'm just thrilled to play a small part in that at Upward and continue on the legacy that many before me has really started.
Oh, it's awesome. I love it. So we'll talk more about it throughout the show today, but encourage everybody to check out upward.org/unpack to find out more information. And you can set up a call and really they'll customize your experience. So regardless of the kind of the size of church or where you're at in your community and as a leader, they'll figure it out what works best. And they want to equip you. So they want to set you up to be able to have a fruitful ministry and really a self-sustaining sports outreach that fits any church size. So we're excited to partner with Upward and excited to have Travis again here today to talk college football. And so my perspective with this college football playoff expansion this season is it's going to be awesome. It's going to be an exciting regular season. It's going to be an even more exciting playoff season. And what historically, I think over recent years, the bowl system has sort of, all right, we're kind of tired of it. It's lost some of its luster, which we'll talk about a little bit more too. But now we go into the season though, with articles being written, people questioning, wondering, some of the traditionalists saying, whoa, are we experiencing way too much change in college football? And this big question, will the regular season become more meaningless? Will there be more games that are meaningless because of this new 12-team playoff? Or will there actually be more meaningful games because now more teams have the opportunity to get in to the playoff, where historically maybe there's only a handful of teams fighting for, in recent years, the 4-team playoff. And so Travis, let me have you jump in. What is sort of your initial bent in okay, well, are games going to be more meaningful or more meaningless as we head into the season?
I'd say both. And here's how I'd answer that. I think there's some games that were more meaningful previously. Take Georgia, Alabama in the SEC championship game last year. Very important game. Georgia gets left out because they lose to Alabama in that game. Next year, that game probably doesn't mean quite as much because both those teams are getting in on a larger playoff. However, the number of games that will matter those last few weeks will be expanded because there's that many more spots available. And so you got, group of 5 type matchups that are going to be more important because they're going to get at least one in for sure. You've got some automatic bid situations that are coming up this year where you might have a team that had a rough start to the year, but they're rolling. And if they win their conference championship, they're in. I think the November is just going to be extremely important with many, many more games that are meaningful starting this year.
So I think, yeah, both can be true today. And, when you think about, okay, will there be meaningless games? Potentially, we see this in the NFL, the final week of the season, there are a couple games that are meaningless with no playoff implications. So we will have plenty of those games down the stretch in college football where, neither team is fighting for the 12-team playoff. And so you could argue, all right, this is a meaningless game. And then also certain teams that do maybe clinch a spot in the playoff earlier in the year, maybe some of their games become meaningless toward the end of the season as well. And so this is, for some it's concerning. It's like, man, the regular season used to mean so much, right? Every game mattered. And especially when it was almost a requirement to go undefeated. And in some years that's the case where if you lose one game, you're out of championship contention. And so there was this weight to every game. And so I think some question, well, will that still be the case now that you can get in as a 6 seed and you can still go win the whole thing. You could drop 1 or 2 games or 3 games. We'll see how, see how it all plays out. But it sort of changes our perspective a little bit on how we view the regular season. And even, just throwing this question out there to listeners too. When you think about all of sports, when you say, okay, which regular season feels the most meaningless? Everybody's kind of got a different perspective on that. Some would argue, the NBA regular season is meaningless. I'll tell that to Minnesota, number 1 team in the West. They're still alive. So that's the debate that we have as sports fans sometimes. Is the regular season meaningless? And so before I give sort of my big take on that, any other thoughts on heading into the season with, will these games be meaningless or not?
I think all games are always meaningful. You take your Carolina Panthers. There was some games that were played in the last couple of years that determined drafting spots and how much you had to pay to go get Bryce Young to 2 years ago and those types of things. So, a big rivalry game, might not matter in the grand scheme of things as it relates to a playoff spot, but it certainly matters to the people of the state, like a Clemson, South Carolina, or a Georgia Tech type game. Those are games that are meaningful to a lot of people, although it might not factor into the national championship there. And so for me, when I was a competitor growing up and anytime I'm still run these days, anytime I step out there, I always want to do the best that I can always. And so I think there's always meaning in any athletic endeavor like that.
Well, there it is. That's the answer. So we can argue, oh man, this game was meaningless and all that kind of thing. And maybe if it's based on the playoffs or if it's results based. But here's the reality about sports is that there is always meaning. Every game matters to a certain extent in the larger scheme of things, but also in the moment. Because especially in college, think about it. I mean, all these guys, this is their last chance for many of them to ever play on a team like this. And this is their all the seniors that will step into their final season. Every game matters. And then you talk about guys that are fighting for being drafted. Every game is game film. And so we sometimes place such an emphasis on the playoff or playoffs in whatever sport. And of course, that's one of the driving factors. And we want our favorite team to go as far as possible, win as many games as possible. And we are results driven in so many ways. But the truth is, the process can have great joy. You can enjoy the process of putting together a game plan, going out there to compete. And whether or not the two teams are in playoff contention, it still matters. It still has an ability to build character, still has the opportunity to reveal character, build relationships with other teammates. And so to say that doesn't have meaning would be silly. There's purpose in that. Even in the losing seasons for all of these teams, there is purpose and meaning in those seasons. The growth that ends up happening from a personal standpoint. Absolutely. And then you have to also consider the meaning of building a program. So oftentimes a team, their standard may be, hey, we got to win 6 games this year because last year we only won 1. And so to say, oh, you're not in, this is a meaningless game. You're only going to win your 6th game of the year. Well, not to them, because they've got sort of a process that they're undertaking. And so you're exactly right, Travis. I think your comment also echoes what I read on theathletic.com from Ari Wasserman. He says, the regular season will never be meaningless. This is college football. There's too much passion around it. And as a Clemson fan, it's the tailgating, it's the experience, it's the traditions, it's being with the other fans. All of that has tremendous meaning, regardless of the matchup and regardless of what's on the line.
Absolutely. Clemson played Tennessee in a meaningless, some might say, bowl game a couple of years ago. But when I go hang out with my Tennessee friends, they remind me of that. So that doesn't feel so meaningless after the fact.
That's exactly right. And the memories and the experiences of those games too, those last, and there's purpose in all of that. And so for us today, as we bring this to life, I think a lot of us wrestle with this topic in all areas. Is what I'm doing meaningful? Is what I'm doing meaningless? And many people get up every day and they go to a job where they go, this is a meaningless job. And why am I doing it? What does this matter? And we want to talk about that mindset today. And in light of sort of comparing this to how we can view college football, where sure, we could view the games as meaningless, or we can view every game as meaningful with the right perspective, that every game can have a purpose if viewed through the right lens. And so for us, you can look at the book of Ecclesiastes in the Bible. And I just finished this study with some guys at church and in our life group. And it was awesome. It was an awesome study, and encourage people to maybe not overlook Ecclesiastes. There's a lot of good stuff in there that in some ways, Ecclesiastes, is that kind of confusing? Well, here's sort of the beginning of Ecclesiastes, where in verses chapter 1, verses 2 and 3, absolute futility, says the teacher. Absolute futility. Everything is futile. What does a person gain for all his efforts that he labors at under the sun? And so that can also be translated as meaningless or vanity. Everything is vanity. Everything is meaningless. Everything under the sun. What does it matter? And that's the perspective of many people. It's like, what does all this matter? And so for us, we might think that, man, what I'm doing every day, what is the purpose? What's the point? The flip side, the other side of this, is we might be so consumed with the regular season and place such an emphasis on our work. And man, it's all about being successful and making money and getting the accolades. And it's all about prestige. And it's all about all that I can accumulate on earth. And that becomes our number one focus. And we find meaning in success and status and power and authority and all those kinds of things. And so we've got to evaluate that in our own lives. Is everything all about winning? Just like in college football. Is that it? If the game is meaningless if we lose, or the game is meaningless if the win doesn't amount to the playoffs. And so is that our mindset in life? Well, so if I'm not winning, if I'm not succeeding, if I'm not making money, it's meaningless. Or do we just get up every day and go, oh, life's meaningless. Forget about it. I give up. It's all meaningless. And maybe just like we're talking about college football, as Travis brought up, maybe there's kind of a third way to look at this, where yes, all of it can have meaning with the right perspective, that we can find purpose in no matter what we're doing, in whatever the job may be. There can be purpose and meaning if our whole life is oriented around what God calls us to and who he is, and living our life with him and for his purposes and for his glory. And so we take a look at those verses again in Ecclesiastes. This is verse 2 in the Amplified translation, puts it like this. Vanity of vanities, says the preacher, vanity of vanities. All that is done without God's guidance is vanity, futile, meaningless, a wisp of smoke, of vapor that vanishes, merely chasing the wind. And so, yes, success and money and power, all of that, it is meaningless. But if we are living life with God and for his purposes, and we see the eternal perspective and we're living for his kingdom, then now all of a sudden our work matters. We find enjoyment in our work because we're doing it with his strength, with a desire to bring glory to God. And so now all of a sudden our whole life changes, and now all of a sudden we're living meaningful lives, that our role as a dad, our role as a husband, our role as a friend has meaning and purpose, because it's not just about us. It's not just about, the temporary things that do vanish in vapor, but in those things we find purpose and meaning. And so, Travis, let me have you kind of jump in and we're talking Ecclesiastes today. We're talking about meaning and purpose. And it's a challenging topic sometimes to really dive deep into, but what bubbles up for you?
I think about it from a linear time perspective a little bit here. Our lives, um, each generation, it even talks about it in Ecclesiastes, each generation is forgotten by the next generation, or generations beyond that. And I think that if you think about eternal life, uh, uh, what we do here on earth during this time has an eternal impact. And so that gives it meaning. I started as a project manager at Upward Sports, and the main thing that you want to do when you start a project is you want to say, well, what's our goal here? What are we trying to achieve here?
Mm.
If we think about life in that perspective, what we do here as it relates to um, our relationship with God and Jesus, it, it matters eternally. And I think that if we keep that perspective, and we're not just moving through the day to day of life and just uh, going about it on our own and trying to accumulate things, as you talk about, in the end, when we are gone, those things are going to pass away. But the eternal decisions we make about our life and our trust in Jesus will live on forever.
That's right. And yeah, the eternal impact that we have on others, and the way we live our lives, and we have this opportunity to do life with Jesus. And so, we talk a lot about here at Unpacking It. It's following Jesus. It's chasing after him. It's doing life with his power, with his strength, with his way of life, and desiring to know him. And so when that becomes our focus and our meaning in life, we can, whether it's stepping out on the football field in a meaningless game, well, it becomes meaningful when we're doing it with an eternal perspective. When we step into the boardroom, into a sales meeting, into the warehouse, behind the radio mic, or my producer Aaron, stepping into the board, the video, the camera, whatever it is that we're doing, there's meaning and purpose. And so in some ways it sounds like, oh, it's kind of vague, or it's out there, it's eternal, but we have to make it, practical into our lives, and saying, okay, I was trying to think about this, because I was thinking yesterday I had to mow the lawn. Is it meaningless to mow the lawn? Well, yeah, it is. It's meaningless. But you know what? I made that time meaningful because I listened to a podcast about Ecclesiastes, right? So we can add value to the things that we're doing, even though maybe in and of themselves they're meaningless. There's no benefit to mowing the lawn, but it has to be done. And so we are in this world, we are living life, and there are things that have to be done every day. And sometimes we get so caught up in meaningless activities and it sucks the life out of us. But what if we embraced some of those activities, and going back to the meaningless games, those, you got a bad record, things are tough, and they go out there and they still play as hard as they can. And for us, it's like, whatever it is we're doing, we step into it. I can bring glory to God. I can give my all here. And I can, do so with enthusiasm and excitement and passion. And there is meaning and purpose in everything that we do, if it's done for the glory of God. And so, a couple other verses to share. 1 Corinthians 10:31. So whether you eat or drink or whatever you do all for the glory of God. And then in Colossians 1:16, it says all things have been created through him and for him. So we've been created for Jesus, and to know him, to live for him, to be with him. And so is that our perspective every day? And so let me also share this in Ecclesiastes 2:24 and 25. It says, there is nothing better for a person than that he should eat and drink and find enjoyment in his toil. This also I saw is from the hand of God, for apart from him, who can eat or who can have enjoyment? And so it really is, apart from God, yeah, there is no enjoyment, there is no meaning, there is no purpose. But with him, even eating and drinking now becomes enjoyable and meaningful and purposeful. And so, man, what a shift in mindset. And so I've been thinking about this lately, and it's been really encouraging to me, because I can get, bogged down and discouraged and distracted, where things feel, man, what am I doing? Why what does this even matter? And it's like, no. This does matter if done for the right reasons. And maybe there are things that we have to drop, right? There are things that, this doesn't matter, I'm wasting my time. And that has to be a part of, a part of this equation as well. But man, when we approach all aspects of our lives with this purpose, driven mindset, as Rick Warren wrote a whole book about, man, now we're thriving, and we're living with such fulfillment and satisfaction as well.
Yeah, I'll take it down one notch lower. What would matter less than two 6-year-old teams playing soccer on a Saturday on a random field anywhere? Probably nothing. No one cares about the who wins in the end. I mean, there might be some parents and that get overly excited about that kind of stuff, but it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things who wins in these two 6-year-old teams that are playing out there. But one of the things that I think Upward Sports does such a great job in doing is there are eternal impacts that happen in some of our leagues out there, where leaders have had these leagues going for 10 years, and countless people have come to know Christ, both athletes and parents, through that. And so all that being done through some what some might say are meaningless games out there, but they have meaningful eternal impacts.
Well, and back to the kind of the concept of results. It's all about the results. It's all about winning. And I think sometimes, we think about youth sports and we try to tell the kids, hey, it's not all about winning. And sure, you want them to learn competition and to have fun. And even at that age, establishing, hey, you can actually play with purpose, and showing them at that point. So the competitive part of me goes, oh man, there should always be a score. It's always about winning. But we have to pull back and say, okay, what if we can, teach kids, and then we actually keep this mindset to where it's about how we play. It's about the approach that we bring to the field or court. And even as coaches, it's maybe your number one focus isn't necessarily winning, but it's all these other aspects that create lasting impact, eternal value. That, man, the impact you're having on that 6-year-old kid that's running around like a knucklehead, but you're coming alongside him, loving him, showing him how fun sports can be, the enjoyment of camaraderie and the enjoyment of competition with the right perspective. And so that's what Upward is teaching these coaches and equipping churches to be able to do. And so that's why I'm passionate, about partnering with Upward too, because this is the right mindset to have in sports. But we, as a sports fan, I get sucked in oftentimes, and it's all about winning and results and all that kind of thing. But man, if we can, like you guys are doing, get back to sort of some of those basics, and then also look at it from a bigger perspective.
No doubt. I want to win always. I just finished up coaching my daughter, who's 9, her soccer Upward season. And I want to win each time I come out there and coach as well. But more important things is, did the girls have a great time? Did they have fun throughout the season? Did I see progression in how they were playing the game, how they're understanding the game, how they're being a part of it? Did they learn certain positions, and are they going to be in a better position to play next year than they were this year? And then, what goes to the mission as well, being able to share that on a weekly basis was a cool thing to be able to do again this year.
And ultimately, what matters? Do we know Jesus, and are we going to spend eternity with him? Like, that's what ultimately matters. And so we've got to make sure that is the focus of our lives, that we embrace, acknowledge, and understand, man, this life it's going away. It is vapor. And so we hold, this life loosely and say, God, every day is a gift. All these things that you've given me are gifts. And so I want to enjoy them, but not at the expense of enjoying you, the gift giver. And so sports are a gift, and it's fun, and it can be enjoyable, and we can do so with purpose, play and coach and ref and watch with purpose. But if we're losing sight of, man, this life is temporary, and it's all about what is eternal, then yeah, we get caught up in the wrong things. And so in talking about the approach that Upward has, it's the same thing that we do here at Unpacking It with Fantasy Football Fellowship. If all we did was play fantasy football for this ring that I have here in my studio, it's all about that. What a waste, right? It's meaningless. This ring is meaningless. But the fact that I've connected with my high school buddies for the last 20 years and we've done life together, there's meaning and there's purpose in playing fantasy football. And so what we do with Fantasy Football Fellowship, we bring the gospel, we bring Jesus into the conversation throughout the fantasy year. And so you're not just wasting time keeping up with your fantasy lineup, but you're actually growing in your faith and building meaningful relationships. Now, all of a sudden, a silly game like fantasy football has meaning and purpose. And so it's the same heartbeat that Upward has, where, 6-year-old soccer, the colleges aren't coming out to scout. So it's meaningless, right? No. There is meaning and purpose. Again, with the right approach, the right perspective. And so that's what's fun. And so that's why we're so aligned with Upward in what they're doing, and on the sports activity standpoint, we're on the viewing standpoint. We're watching sports, we're playing fantasy football from our couch. But the mindset and heartbeat of, hey, how do we redeem sports? How do we redeem watching sports, playing sports, and allow God to move and show up and provide meaning and purpose through it all? That's what we're chasing after. And so that's exciting and fun for sure.
Absolutely. We align on a lot of things, and that's why we enjoy this partnership with you guys.
Absolutely. Well, Travis, it's been a blast having you here in studio, and again, appreciate the partnership and all that Upward is doing. And I think back when I was growing up, I played at the church, played basketball at the church. I played church sports throughout my childhood and growing up, and it had a huge impact on me. And so I think it's crucial for kids to learn that foundation at a young age, even through the lens of soccer and basketball. And so I'm all for it, and know the impact it's had on me. And I think back to even one of my coaches when I was probably 12 years old. I'm still friends with him, and we do ministry together now. Coach Jeff, and so he's got an organization called Be Their Dad, and so actually I'm going to see him tomorrow morning. So there you go. So those relationships last, and that's the other aspect of it too. So let me wrap up with this. And any final words, Travis? But thank you, man. Thanks for driving up here. This was awesome. So, and good luck to your Clemson Tigers this year as well.
That's right. Go Tigers.
I can't say the same about the Cowboys. So I root against the Cowboys, but I'm wearing my Clemson orange shirt today in honor of Travis and Coach Dabo as well. But let me say this to wrap things up. Let's enjoy life with God. Let's find meaning and purpose in pursuing what matters to Him. And so, yes, we can enjoy the gifts that He gives, but never more than Him as the gift giver. And so here's how Ecclesiastes ends in chapter 12, verse 13 in the Amplified Translation. When all has been heard, the end of the matter is fear God, worship Him with awe-filled reverence, knowing that He is Almighty God, and keep His commandments, for this applies to every person. And so let's live with meaning and purpose as we bring Him glory, as we enjoy Him, as we find our satisfaction and fulfillment in Him. And yes, this life is temporary, but man, it's setting us up for eternity with Him. And that matters. His kingdom matters. So thank you so much for listening to the Unpacking It podcast today. For Travis, for Aaron, my producer, I'm Bryce. I'm a sports fan who follows Jesus. I believe in the good news that He died on the cross for my sin. He was resurrected, and through faith, I've been saved by His grace. I hope that is true for you as well, and I hope you'll join me as we live life as sports fans who follow Jesus together. Have a great rest of your day. Be sure to check out upward.org/unpack. So we will talk to you next time right here on the Unpacking It podcast.